104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Right now live at Giants Camp. Thanks to our friends at Levack Blue. Jordan Raanan of ESPN fame joins us. And let's rip.
I bring chips and cookies, by the way.
You do?
That's the best.
You should give Labatt's Blue.
Well,
that would be a fair trade-off, right?
I drink
Although
it all.
I don't know about fair, but definitely in my advantage.
I drink it all in the car so that guys can't get in trouble.
Yes, what is this?
It's my contribution.
As long as you're not the one driving.
Right,
I mean,
right.
although it's actually you shouldn't do that either because that's illegal.
Well, when we pull over, I drink it, then we get back. No,
Yeah, that's what we do.
Something
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
Yeah,
Brown
something.
bag.
I don't know.
All right, speaking of getting people in trouble, what's going on with Earl Beckham Jr.'s contract?
They're talking, which is a good sign, right?
No.
They're, as far as I'm aware, they've made some progress, and they're hoping that something can get done by the start of the season. I mean, that's the hope right now. So you just sit and wait.
Is there a media etiquette? And I was joking around about this Levack yesterday. I said, everyone knows that's the big storyline around camp. They're like, okay, Jordan gets to ask today about the contract. All right, tomorrow you get to ask about the question. All right, tomorrow you – because it could be every day that Pat Shurmur, Dave Gettleman, somebody knows that question's coming every day.
Yeah, no, you know what? They wear you down, right? They give you nothing every time that eventually it wears you down where you don't want to ask it. So – at this point, no one's even asking about the contract right now because there's nothing that Pat Shurmur can say or is going to say that is even semi-relevant. So maybe once a week it comes back up in some way, shape, or form, and somebody has an idea in their head of a story they're working on and the way that they can sort of tie it in. But, yeah, there's definitely less questions about it than you would imagine at this point.
But is it even a fact? Because the one guy we haven't heard talk about the contract, Odell Beckham Jr. Is it a factor? Let's say it doesn't get done before the season starts, he's still going to play, right?
You never know how that's going to work.
In your
out. I mean,
theory,
everything seems to be heading towards that. I mean, he's here in training camp. He's playing in training camp. He's not playing in the preseason, but he's going out there against the Detroit Lions in live joint practices. He's out there. Now, the only thing you wonder is, hey, if they hit a wall, right?
Right.
And what's Odell's really his only leverage?
Not playing.
Is to say, hey, come week one, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm not playing. I'm out until you meet my demands. That's his leverage, right? Then what do the Giants do at that point? What would our offense look like without that guy? We're going to suck again. Holy cow. We need to make this work some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So I think, that has to be back. That sits back there in the distance of, okay, it's a possibility because that's his leverage.
Wow. The thought of this offense without either him or Saquon Barkley is not a pretty picture.
It shouldn't be. I mean, they're not a great offense as it is even now. I mean, they have an aging 37-year-old quarterback who doesn't move particularly well with an offensive line that's still not going to be the greatest pass protecting unit. So you need every other thing to work pretty well in order to have a good offense.
Well, let's go back to Saquon Barkley. What was the actual injury that sidelined him through practice for the past few days?
Yeah, he tweaked his hamstring. I mean, you could see it. He beat Janoris Jenkins on a deep route last Monday, so now we're 8 days removed. He beats him, and you could see him, stop. He didn't pull up completely, but he just kind of stopped and was just going back gingerly, so you could kind of tell something wasn't right. And they checked him out, figured it was a tweak. But if you're watching here at practice, he is doing a decent amount of stuff, side work, jogging, running, leg strengthening, jumps, those kind of things. You could tell it's not that he's not moving at all. So I don't think you have to sit there and worry about this being a serious injury, right? The only thing I think that needs to be of concern is we have to make sure, if you're the Giants, we have to make sure that he doesn't come back and aggravate it. Or tweet, right. Or pull it coming back, because then it becomes a bigger problem. Then it could become a chronic problem. So I think right now everything's fine. They're just going to play it very safely.
So if this was a regular season meaningful game, there's a chance he plays. If it's because it's preseason,
I think he would be. If it was a regular season game this week, if there's a playoff game this week, I think Saquon Barkley would be on the field.
And
but right now, why do you have to rush him back?
Right.
What are you doing? You're what, for the third, fourth preseason game? I asked Jonathan Stewart last week. I said, how important is it kind of for him to play in the preseason? And he said, look, everybody takes time to adjust, right? But different guys, it takes a different amount of time to adjust.
Right.
And you could tell by watching him after one run that he adjusted just fine.
Right.
39 yards, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
All right, he's adjusted.
Right.
He's all right on
the
that
adjustment
end.
is made. Like I told everybody, if you watch that on black and white TV, you would thought it was Penn State still. He looked that clean.
Wait,
in that
why?
movie.
They use black and white TVs in Penn State?
Yes. Yeah, you didn't know? No, I just because you can see no difference. The jerseys are obviously a different color.
But it has to be a black and white TV?
How else would you do it? How else would you
Their
erase
jerseys are
the
still-
color?
Even when you have a colored TV, their jerseys are still...
It's a different blue.
Blue and white.
It's a different blue.
All right.
Jordan
Wait,
Raanan here to bust on me. All right, wait, here we go.
Who still has black and white TVs?
It was a mere a tool to make a point.
All right, sorry. I derailed this entire interview.
You just haven't busted my stones in a long time, so you decided to come at me.
Interview. I'm never going to be allowed on again. Thanks for having me.
Please, we're going to bother you all the time. You know that. We don't let you get away.
We'll do this question then to get us back on the rails here. Pat Shurmur versus Ben McAdoo. For somebody like you who's here every single day, the biggest difference between those two styles of coaching?
I think Shurmur has made an effort to have a stronger bond with his players. You see him going up and talking to players all throughout practice. He's just more open with them, I think. I think that is the biggest difference. Obviously, schematically, it's going to be different. You're going to see a different offense. You're going to see guys move around. He's not as rigid as Ben was in that regard. I think that was part of Ben's downfall, is that he was so intent on making his offense work with these players rather than the other way around, where I think Shurmur tries to make the players, like the offense, work for the players.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, we have Evan Ingram. This guy is really a wide receiver in a tight end's body.
Right.
This is how we have to use him. Not, okay, he's our tight end. We're going to use him as a down tight end, inline tight end. That's just what the tight end does. That's not what this tight end does. That's not what the new age tight end does. He doesn't block. He catches passes. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. So I think Pat Shurmur's good at being able to. That's one of his strengths, is being able to use the weapons at his disposal. He's really taken, if you look at it, Andy Reid's offense, which he was with in Philadelphia, Chip Kelly's offense, who he was with in Philadelphia the second time, a little bit from when he worked with Josh McDaniels, I believe, at one point, and even when he worked with Norv Turner in Minnesota, and he's taken all those systems, melded them into one system, and that's his system.
That's cool. That's a cool thing. Now, bringing up McAdoo, Eli Apple looks like he's a full-blown member of this team now. So with Apple performing at the level he is, does he get a full-blown second chance because of how hard it was to deal with McAdoo?
That has nothing to do with it.
No?
It has to do with the fact that they don't have any cornerbacks.
Okay.
He gets a full-blown second chance because they are so short at cornerback. He's penciled in as a starter, locked in as a starter, and if he's not any good, they're in deep trouble.
Is he any good? How does he look to you?
Eli Apple?
Yeah.
Eli Apple is very strange. He looks good in practices.
Right.
Then he goes up against another team, and all of a sudden it doesn't look as good. There's I don't know. There's definitely
something.
There's definitely a concern or at least questions about how good is he. He was a high pick, obviously. He had an okay rookie year. You thought there was potential there, and he had a completely disastrous second year. Total mess on, off the field, played terribly, had problems off the field, had problem with everybody in the organization, from coaches, team personnel to teammates to coach, the head coach, you name it. So what is he this year? This is put up or shut up this year. They gave him a clean slate, but I don't think anybody knows really what you're going to get with him. And they're crossing their fingers because they have Janoris Jenkins, Eli Apple, and a bunch of guys.
So he was healthy scratches at times in December. He's out of the game. Undrafted rookies and free agents off the street are playing before he is. If they thought he was so bad at the end of December, why didn't the new staff come in and say, okay, this guy can't play, we're going to cut him?
Well, it
really is an
play.
audition.
It was benched and suspended.
Right, okay, sure, yeah.
So it was a little different. And, look, there's financial considerations that go into it. Why do you think Eric Flowers is still on this roster? Mm-hmm. Eric Flowers is still on his rookie deal, and that rookie deal is pretty much guaranteed, right? So that rookie deal is guaranteed. They're trying to get something out of him for that money. So that same with Eli Apple. Like, they're trying to get something. This is a first-round pick that they had. They don't have depth at the position. They only had so much money to go spend in free agency. Cornerbacks are costly. They needed to bank on him giving them something. That's why he's here.
Jordan, you brought up Eric Flowers. Is he making the transition to right tackle? Does he look a little bit better?
This is a relative scale. So does he look a little bit better? Sure, he looks a little bit better.
Does he look like an NFL player?
He does not look like an NFL starting caliber player.
Man, I mean,
they paid $60 million to make sure he wasn't their starting left tackle.
Right.
Okay. What makes you think he's going to go to the right side and all of a sudden be good?
Lesser talent rushing against him?
I don't think that's the case anymore nowadays. I really don't. First of all, let's look in the division, right?
Right.
The Washington Redskins, their best pass rusher, Ryan Kerrigan, plays on that side. The Dallas Cowboys, Tank Lawrence, he usually plays on that side. I really don't think that's even the case anymore. And first of all, guys switch around. Wouldn't you just take your best guy and put him opposite Eric Flowers over Nate Solder? What opposing team is not going to do that this year? And if you don't, your head coach, you should be looking at the head coach and be like, what the heck are you doing? That right side of the line is something you have to be worried about. I mean, there's him and Patrick Omame, pass blocking in particular, is going to be something that's going to have to be monitored here and moving forward. Even you've seen it in the preseason already.
2 first-round draft picks and how they haven't panned out could be the storyline of the Giants in 2018. But for Giants fans in the Capital Region, give them realistic expectations, wins and losses for this 2018 team.
Well, look, last year was a total disaster, right?
Dumpster fire.
Everything went wrong. They went 3-13. The year before, everything went right. They went 11-5. The reality was this team was probably somewhere in between. So they're probably in that 8-8 range. That's, to me, where they are talent-wise, depth-wise, all around. I mean, they have good players, right? They have some notable players at pretty much every level. Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley, Eli Manning, Evan Ingram, Nate Solder, Damon Harrison, right? Even on the defense, right. Damon Harrison and Olivier Vernon and Janoris Jenkins and Landon Collins. But as a team all the way around, the depth is a concern.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, if they stay completely healthy, I could see. Someone said they'll win 10 games. I said, oh, yeah, sure. I could see that. I mean, they have talent. But how are they going to be able to sustain any injuries?
Can they win 12 games?
That's what concerns me.
Can they win 12 games on a black and white television?
Yes, of course. Because on the black and white television,
everything's different.
You won't have the internet to check that it's over like 3 seasons, right?
Jordan Raanan from ESPN. What are you working on for the mothership? Anything special you found?
Yeah, we got something from about Odell coming up in the contract. We got a little something in the works on that. Just sort of what is
that means he's got a scoop, guys, but he can't share it.
Okay.
He's always got a scoop. He's always got something.
It's more of along the lines of what his value is.
Okay.
What's realistic for Odell Beckham in a contract negotiation, and what's his price, right? I mean, he's going to set records, but how much? What's he going to do? What is realistic for the Giants to make sense for both sides, right?
Right.
He wants, I'm sure, he wants
20 a year.
Like he said, he would love to be the highest paid player in football. He knows, but he knows that's not realistic. So it's like, what he wants and what he necessarily gets are two different things, and that's how negotiation works in general, isn't it?
Right, absolutely. So when is that coming out?
To be determined. We'll see on that.
I got one more question.
I'm like his editor over here. Come on, Jordan. When are we getting this? Let's go. ESPN.com here.
Well, I thought I'd be finished by 3:30, but apparently that's not happening.
Is this a true thing? Can we call this the Ben McAdoo stink? Are there some players from the Ben McAdoo tenure, the era of that because they were a Ben McAdoo guy or a Ben McAdoo draftee, that this regime looks at them a bit differently because of how McAdoo?
Nas is saying this because he doesn't like Davis Webb.
I was going to say Davis Webb wasn't good, but I don't know. We can phrase it however we'd like.
Well, let's say this. Let me say this. First of all, they're not really Ben McAdoo guys. If anything, they're Jerry Reese guys.
Right.
Because the reality is Ben McAdoo was a first-year head coach, a first-time head coach in his first year or two, right? He wasn't the one ultimately making these picks. The front office had the power at last year. They were there for a long time. They were the ones pulling the strings in a lot of places, and so I don't think so. Now, in some degree, you're right, because the reality is the new regime. And it happens everywhere. Any new boss. I mean, you in your place. So you have a new boss. The new boss comes in. They want to bring in their own guys. Yeah. So when you bring in your own guys, the other guys have to sort of prove themselves. And Davis Webb, yeah, he's the previous regime's guy. Kylo Letta is now the new regime's guy. Jonathan Stewart is the guy the new regime brought in. They're going to make that work, try and make that work, because that's one of their guys. They brought him in. Same with William Gay out here, who, they started him in the slot. He didn't look very good. Now they're trying him at safety. They're going to try and make that work because that's their guy. They signed him. So I think there is definitely some of that, and you should keep that in the back of your mind. But at the same time, they quadrupled down on Eli, right? That's not their guy.
That's
then
true.
Again, that's the ownership's guy. So.
That makes a big difference. Jordan Raanan with us. Check out his stuff always at ESPN.com, and he's always here to both share information and bust my stones, which is why we love him so much.
And bring food, chips, and
cookies.
bring
food, which is always, obviously the way to my heart. So, Jordan, thank you so much, man. We'll see you soon.
This isn't going to help anyone's diet with me coming around here, but
what's diet? That's a 4-letter word in my world.
Do it again soon.